Hello guys and welcome back. So we're gonna start with one of the first core services. Glue is a technology that will help us build the data catalog and build the ETL. So let's get started with the AWS Glue Architecture. So ETL means extract, transform, and load. Routine paradigm in any data warehousing methodology. So firstly, what does ETL does? ETL does a lot of transformation. It's a set of tasks that we generally do where we move data from one source to another destination. So as you can see over here, it takes 80% of the time spent here. Why? Because the reason a lot of the data that is taken from the source to the destination, it will not match the exact schema or will not be of the right nature because you need to do a lot of transformation to get it into shape. You might want to cleanse it. You might want to convert the format. So there's a lot of different things that you might want to do before you take the data from one repository to another. So that is what it's trying to describe here. A lot of the time, when generally in data warehousing projects, you spend it on ETL. Data warehousing in AWS, Amazon Redshift, and for business intelligence in Amazon, you usually use QuickSight. These are the core plugin components before you take the data from S3 and make it reach the report. One of the components of Redshift of AWS, you could also plug in Athena, which only works on S3 data, does not work on AWS warehousing data. So if you want to take the data from the catalog and report it to the QuickSight services medium, you will need these components. And when we're talking about Redshift here, we're talking about Redshift Spectrum. We're not actually talking about Redshift, the data warehouse, but more of the query engine, Redshift Spectrum. So what is AWS Glue? First thing, discover, develop, and deploy. These are the three main functions that lets you automatically discover and categorize your data, making it immediately searchable and queryable across data sources. This is through crawlers, and this will become more clearer when we start to go into breadth of the detailed components that make up Glue. You can develop general source code, enrich, and reliably move data between various data sources. You could also customize it, which pretty much means ETL. And finally, run your jobs on a serverless, fully managed scale-out environment. This is an important point to make. So it's able to scale up and scale out, and it will be able to deploy a lot of resources horizontally. And that is the way it manages the infrastructure on AWS and the platform and the framework for you. So it is serverless. No compute resources to provision or manage. I like Redshift because, for example, if you stand up a Redshift shifter, you have to decide how many nodes you want. You have to decide what is the cluster size going to be and which family of clusters do you want. Do you want dense compute or dense storage? So all those things you need not to worry about if you're working with AWS Glue, and they serve a very different purpose. Now let's come on to the AWS Glue components. The three basic components are first the cloud, then the catalog, and then the job. Secondly, you'll have job authoring. What this means is auto-generating of ETL code on the source and the destination select. Python and Apache Spark is what the language that this works on. Scala has also came up as one of the languages that's also supported. You could basically edit, debug, and share the code, and also customize this code. That is all to make it available. And finally, job execution. This is serverless execution. You don't have to attach any infrastructure. You could also schedule these jobs and set up a trigger, and monitoring and alerting, such as CloudWatch, is also available. So the general use case in most data storage apply is to move data from one source to another. And the type of data storage that you have is Amazon Redshift, Amazon S3 buckets, Amazon RDS, and then you have also EC2-based service like Oracle, any other kind of data services, all kind of that. So all these kind of data storage are hosted on AWS. And now you have AWS Glue crawls, and what the crawls do, they scan the data source that you have configured, and they set up a schema, and this schema is assimilated over here in the AWS Glue data catalog, which is a unified clean schema across all the data sources that you're using across the AWS. It's a high meta store compatible, and there are two different things over here. One, you could create a catalog in Athena, And second, you could create it in Glue, but Glue is the standard preferred medium to use for data catalog. So data lake on Amazon S3 with AWS Glue. This is our use case because we're trying to use it on a data lake medium. And now all of this data will just land into our S3. We will partition this data. We'll move it into different buckets. Once all the data is done in the catalog, Athena, EMR, Spectrum can then query the data catalog, and basically all the data created from there, Amazon QuickSight can report this data, and you could create cool dashboards and do your reporting from there. Now, logical data lake with AWS Glue. What logical means is that let's say that there could be n number of components in data lake. What Glue consists as data lake. AWS Glue crawlers, AWS Glue data catalog, and AWS Glue ETL jobs. These are the three basic components from AWS Glue, which sits within the logical data lake. The diagram that you see over here, this is Apache Zeppelin. This is a notebook. Generally, what you want to do, let's say you want to generate an ETL code on Glue, which is fine. But when you have a team of, let's say, 10 developers who are going to develop all these ETL codes in parallel for large projects, how would you do that? You would not resort to, on default to, it does generate the Python code, but you don't want to do that. Because with developers, you want to test out your code prior. So you would like to do that interactively and to run the queries on Zeppelin, an open source notebook, and you install it on your machine. Then you would connect it to an endpoint on AWS. And this development endpoint is a Spark infrastructure. And then you could do development ETL transformation code. And once that code is ready, you could put it on top of a job, and then you could schedule the job, and then that job would runs on a trigger. And that is ETL development is done on AWS Glue for ETL transformation jobs. So this is all we want to talk about, the architecture of Glue. And we went through a couple of diagrams, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Thank you.